Welcome back to the Superhero Institute. Today I'm going to teach you about how to prioritize when everything feels like a priority. I'm sure you've been there, and today I'm going to teach you how I do it. All right, so one of the things that you might be noticing as a freelancer, entrepreneur, or small business is that it always seems like everything is a priority. Everything's always on fire. Everything is always important. And it becomes very difficult when you have so many things that are flying at you to decide what it is that you should be doing. I'm going to teach you today about some of the tools that I use to be able to prioritize when I'm feeling completely overwhelmed, or as I call it, spinning. Now, the first thing I want to talk to you about is I'm going to break this into 4 parts, really, because I believe that there's one thing that kind of is the underlying principle that allows you to better prioritize. And then there are basically like 3 tactics that I use that I find are very, very helpful in being able to get more stuff done and get more of the things that are important done. So the first step is, if we're going to think about how to prioritize, it really comes down to understanding what are your priorities. So what are the things that you value most, that you're trying to get accomplished in your career or in your life? You have to understand what your order of operations actually is, because you can't actually prioritize if you don't know what that is. Because what you'll wind up doing is you'll pay attention to the squeaky wheel. You'll basically look at whatever's on fire and think that's what needs to get put out. When in reality, if you really deeply understand what are the most important things you're trying to accomplish, what are the things that are going to make the biggest impact in your ability to grow in your business or to take care of your family or whatever your priorities are, that has to be the thing that you pay attention to first and foremost. And that's going to be how you're going to go about ordering your list of things. And we'll get to that part next. But it's really important that you deeply understand who you are, what you're about, what you're trying to accomplish. So I would encourage you, if you haven't watched the first video on this channel about how to set your goals for the year, that might be a good one to go back and watch. I will link it in the description. And that one will help you to better understand how to set up your entire year, what your themes are for the year, what are what's the one thing that you really want to get accomplished, and what are some of the kind of key milestones and goals that you have for the year. So I would suggest going back and watching that if you haven't set your goals for the year. Now, assuming that you have values and priorities and things that you know that you want to get accomplished, the next step is, how do you take that knowledge and that understanding when everything is on fire to be able to create a well-sequenced list and then have the focus to be able to take that list down? Well, that brings us to the second part. And the second part is going to be mind mapping. So one of the things that I do whenever I feel like I'm spinning is I will bust out my mind mapping program. I use a program called Simple Mind, but you can also do this just with, a good old-fashioned regular simple notepad. The idea is that what you do with mind mapping is you allow your brain to operate in the way that it normally does, which is making associations between different things. You'll notice that this is an excellent way for you to get ideas out of your head in a way that is coordinated and that it'll allow you to feel complete at the end of it. Here's how I do it. First thing I do is I create sort of a central theme of everything. Typically, I just write, in the times where I'm feeling like everything is overwhelming, I'll just write, "I'm spinning." And that's kind of the center of my mind map. And from there, I try to just start putting spokes off of that mind map that are all of the things that are in my brain. Anything that comes out, like what are the things that are right now like burning, have to get them done, and I just get them all out. Then I try to start grouping them into kind of bigger categories. But off of each of those, I might then say, okay, so let's say that I wanted to update my website. And that's a thing that I'm just like, man, I just need to do that. It's an important thing. I need to update my website. I'll then go into that and say, okay, what does it mean to update my website? It might be something like, I need to redo the copy on my homepage. I need to create a video for the homepage. I need to build out a particular services page, or I need to update the form on my contact page. It can be any one of those things, but I'll start listing all of those different things off. And then out of that, there might be additional offshoots. So what you're doing is you're allowing your brain to sort of work in this naturally hierarchical way that it can automatically do. And human beings, the brain is a pattern recognition machine. We're constantly looking for ways to group things and categorize things. So mind mapping allows you to just kind of throw it all out and then group things together in a way that starts to make sense. So the mind mapping is the process by which you get everything out of your mind and you put it into groups that make sense. Now, what do you do with that? That leads us to point number 3. And that's where you're going to curate down your giant list of stuff that happened in the mind map. So now once you understand what your priorities are, what you're really trying to accomplish, you can look at this giant list that happens on your mind map and start to whittle it down to the things that are your highest priorities. Everything else needs to go off to the side. So what I do is I employ something known as the Pareto principle. It's commonly referred to as the 80-20 rule. It's the idea that essentially 20% of your customers are going to bring you 80% of your results, or 20% of your effort yields 80% of the results. It plays out across all areas of life, in economics, in working out, in all sorts of, in diet. Essentially, there is a 20% that is responsible for 80% of your results. So what I do is I will take my list. Let's say I have 20 different tasks that come out of my brain in this mind map. I will whittle it down to the top 4. So that's 20% of the entire 20 is going to be 4 items. I will then list those 4 items 1 through 4. Now I've got my list of priorities. And again, I'm choosing them based upon the big things that are most important to me. Now you might be asking, well, what if some of those other things are really important? That's great. They can still be important. But what you're going to do in the case of the 20 items is you're going to list them from 5 through 20 after you have your top 4. And this leads us to point number 4 of how to actually move these things through a process. Point number 4 is to use a system to limit your work in progress. The system that I use is a Kanban, basic Kanban board setup, where I will essentially have 3 columns: next, now, and done. You typically will see this in Agile and Scrum methodologies, where you'll bring your teams together and you'll want to limit their work in progress. What's on the backlog? What's the work in progress right now? But a central idea of Kanban methodology is that you want to limit WIP, work in progress. And the idea behind that is that you are then able to focus exclusively on the things that are the work in progress, rather than distracting yourself with all of the other things that might be important. This is one of the crucial elements of focusing. Focus isn't just about what you're focusing on, but it's what you are focusing on to the exclusion of everything else, which is why I use the 3-column setup of next, now, and done. So in the example that I gave before of having 20 different items that are very important, I will have 1 through 4 in my now column, and then I will have 5 through 20 in the next column. Now, typically, I'll even go one step further, and I limit my work in progress to 3 items. So I want to get 3 items done, and I'll go 1, 2, 3, and I'm ordering them in order of what is the highest priority. And again, this comes down to my values and what I'm trying to accomplish. Then at the top of the next column will be the number 4 item, and as soon as I move number 1 over to the done column, I move number 4 to the bottom of the now column. This is how I get things done. I basically will understand what my values and my priorities are at the top of it. I'll then mind map and get everything out of my head. And once I have everything out of my head and it's grouped and it's categorized and everything, I will go through with an iron fist of the Pareto principle, and I will whittle it down to the top 20% of the things that are important. From there, I will take that and move it into my system, where I will list it from 1 through however many it is, going from essentially the most important things down to the bottom, and keeping only 3 items in my now column so that I can work on those things exclusively. Then I have a single-minded focus to get those items done to the exclusion of everything else. And what I've found in my work is that this is a way that you can actually get more done, rather than trying to get 5 or 10 different things done at once and not getting any of them completed. If you find the Superhero Institute valuable and you enjoy these sort of lessons, please share it with someone. Find a video on the channel that you like a lot and tell someone about it. And then if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and smash that notification bell, or just tap it gently. It's completely up to you. And I hope to see you here next time on the Superhero Institute, where I'll be going through, hopefully in my next video, how to create an insane amount of content using a consistent system. I'm also going to be planning a video on how to create and run a successful podcast. And I've got plenty more ideas. If there's something that you'd like to learn about running your small business, freelance practice, or entrepreneurial venture, please put it in the comments below. I read every comment, even the ones that are snarky. I'd like to thank you all for that. There will be a lot more dabbing in videos. And for all of you else out there who enjoy it just the way it is, thank you for showing up. Please come back for the next one, and I will see you in the next episode of the Superhero Institute.